bicycle. And I stopped at a theatre to get a pump, or to see if I could find a pump. They didn't have a pump, but they told me these auditions that were taking place up in London for this film, and I shaved my head to be in a play years before, and they said, you don't mind shaving your head, do you? It's going to be a skinhead. I said, I don't give a fuck. So I go in, and I get the job. So Flat Tire got me my first job. While I'm there, while I'm working on that one, the director says to me, do you want to be an actor? You know, I said, yeah, because we were finishing filming. He said, who do you want to work with? I said, I've heard about this bloke, Mike Lee. He said, funny you should mention that. There's these auditions going up. Do you want to meet with him? I said, okay. I go in, I get that one. I'll tell you the story about the feature film later, but that's the first two jobs that I got. The feature film is because Joe Strummer didn't want to make movies.
Well, you can't tease us with that. What's that story?
Well, Joe was offered this part in a film called The Hit, which I did years and years ago. It's a good little film. And Stephen Frears directed.
Tell me who's in it.
Oh, with
Terrence
Terrence Stamp, and Lara Del Sol, who's very good in it, and Bill Hunter, and Fernando Rey, and some classy people. But Joe was going to play my part, and he pulled out because he was having a bit of trouble with the Clash at the time, and said, get that skinhead in. And that was the Flat Tire, so that got me that. And then once I got that, I was kind of rolling.
But I mean, you think about who you work with at the beginning of your career. You know, yeah, you got Mike Lee, you got Stephen Frears. You basically end up working with all these kind of British social realist directors who must have in some way or another influenced your making The War Zone in the first place.
Yeah, I think Alan Clark was the one for me. And I think he was their one too. I mean, he's gone now.
But he was like a star in real life. I mean, he could have starred movies, Alan Clark.
He was crazy. He's from Liverpool. He died, I can't remember what year it was. Do you know? 88?
88. And by the way, he made the original version of Elephant.
Yeah.
That Gus Van Sant remade.
The original version is, I toured with that. I've taken that, I took it around. Actually, the Toronto Film Festival showed it there. It's a 40-minute film. It has maybe 3 lines of dialogue in it. It's about sectarian killings in Northern Ireland. Danny Boyle produced it. It's really disturbing. And really the reason, we've all seen killings in movies and all of that, but the reason it's disturbing is the journey you go on about how you get bored with violence. And then suddenly you feel that you're doing that, and then you're disgusted with yourself. And it's a brilliant piece about Ireland, and it's, I think, one of the most effective films, with the exception of Wind That Shakes the Barbie, which is a different animal. But it's a brilliant piece, and it's his best film, I think. It's Alan's best film. You should see it. I highly recommend it.
Part of it, too, is that, unlike the Van Sant movie, which is there's a sense of dread that you're waiting for, with Clark's Elephant, you have no idea where it's going, because it's so immediate.
He's not. I mean, I talked to Alan about it, and he said it was easy. The execution of it was easy, because it's 18 killings. It's just 18, I think, murders. Quite unexpected and odd, but nothing flashy. No, really the opposite of fancy film work. I mean, long takes, because he was the Steadicam guy at the beginning of all of that. But he said his job, the difficulty in making that film was, because you weren't cutting into them, was in what order do I show them to the audience? How do I? And he was, I think, right up until the end, back and forth and back and forth, trying to figure out the progression. And it's worth looking at it from that perspective. After you've just seen it the first time, just going back and looking at about why. It's a performance. He's crafting a performance. It's brilliant.
Yeah, the film actually works as a kind of performance, as a set piece, but it's such a hard movie to watch. I mean, because you don't realize the impact of it until it's finally all over. What was your it's horrible. What was your first experience with him like? I mean,
I do waffle. You know what waffle means?
Let me teach you what acting is all about. Speak so people can hear you.
I will just go off and tell stories. Okay, go ahead.
That's why you're here, for God's sake. Well, what was your first meeting with Clark? Have some water. Go ahead. What was your first meeting with Alan Clark like? What was your first conversation? Did you know who he was at that point? He said, yeah, if you couldn't hear him.
All right, I'd seen Scum. There's a film called Scum, which Ray Winstone was in. The reason I became an actor is because of Ray Winstone and because of Alan Clark. I saw that film and I thought, if that fucker can do it, I can do it. It's really like well, you know what I mean? It's true. I mean, if you can come up off the streets of London and be an actor, right? Fair game. I think that's a good thing. And he is such an actor. Right? So I went and watched it. It was playing in one cinema in London over and over again. I watched it. I mean, at Matt, I would come out of that theatre wanting to be an actor. I mean, that was what got me going. So then, I have the flat tire, and so I get to go and see Alan. Right? And I know, I was actually at that time selling advertising over the phone to people who couldn't afford it. It's what out-of-work actors do quite often. So I was a telemarketer.
I've hung up on you many times.
Right. So I get the script. They give me the script. I don't know why they gave me the script. So I read it and I go, oh, fuck, this is good. So I go in and I played him. I scammed him. I had three, and I told him afterwards. I had three auditions. First one was for him, and I was just straight with him, and that's good enough. But I read for him, and I'm not very good at reading, auditioning at all. The second one, then he said, come back, we want you to meet the writer, David Leland. So I went, all right. So I come back and I met with him, and I read for him, and it was right. And they said, okay, now you're going to have to meet the producers. Right? And they were playing me. Right? They just want to see what I was like under pressure, because I'd never acted before on camera. So I went, all right. Now the office that I was meeting them at was on, I think, the third floor. It's in Soho in London, and it looked out over a park. And I'm playing a Nazi skinhead, you know, a scumbag, but very smart. So I get to the meeting early. I'm compulsively early. So I get there early and I'm about half an hour early, but enough that I know that they'll be there. And I say, well, you know what, I'll sit in the park, you know, until you're ready. So I went in and I played the character in the park. I got stopped by the police. I got lucky because a mate of mine from a punk band was walking through the park as well, so that caused trouble. But I was in character, and I knew that they would be watching me, and I knew that I'd sealed the job. The cops helped me because they were going to arrest me. But, you know, I got the job. And that was my meeting with Alan. And then on set, when we were finishing up the film, I told him that story, and he laughed his pants off. But he said, I felt something was up.
But it's amazing, though, because so much of that early part of your career for me is almost that influence of Joe Horton and those guys who did those things on stage, and Saturday night and Sunday morning, all those kinds of, that kind of sort of getting your anger out on camera. And I've never seen you really talk about this before, but I wonder if that somehow, those are movies you watch with your parents, if you knew about that kind of stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I was bullied at school. I was a victim of bullying, really serious, merciless bullying, which led me, I come from my mum was a teacher in primary school, in secondary school, kids school, and then my dad was a journalist, but he was a very poor fella. He was not very good at living life. So I didn't have, we were the smelly family on the street. We were the ones but we lived in a fairly kind of respectable neighbourhood. And I failed all the exams to get into schools, posh schools, so I went to a working class school in a black neighbourhood in Brixton in London. And at that school, I was mercilessly bullied by the white kids, not the black kids. I actually had a surrogate family, a black family, that really kind of almost brought me up. But I was really knocked about. And I'm good at playing, or was good at playing those characters, because I know what they smell like. I know what those bastards I like, and I know how they operate. And that's the only reason that I was good at playing them. But I was not from that. I was the opposite end of it. I was a quiet kid who had to get loud and had to make people laugh, so I didn't get a beating. You know?
Wow, because so many of those characters you played in that part of your career were guys who sort of like led with that kind of controlled anger in their voices, almost like they were using anger, using their voices to intimidate other people.
Yeah, I mean, I was around him a lot. You know, so that was the only reason that I could play him, because I didn't study acting. I didn't go off and learn how to do it. I just did it. You know?
When do you feel like you were an actor, though? I mean, is there a point you feel like I can do this for a living? Did that happen for you